What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. It is officially baseball season. We had one of the worst Super Bowls ever experienced. It was absolutely terrible. Eagles win. We don't care. It's on to baseball season. The Mets simply had one of their best off seasons ever. So we came up with a very cool idea. And that idea is going to be what, James?
What we did is we're going to try and project the Mets roster out 5 years in 2030. So we're going way past that. We're going free agents. We're going trades. We're going prospects. Anything that we think this Mets roster can look like. We wanted to do this as a way to kind of close the offseason, close the book. Because while pitchers and catchers are reporting today, or 2 days, whatever, sometime early this week, there's nothing to talk about yet until these guys actually get there and we can actually have some fodder and have some things that's going on. So this is how we're putting a bow in the offseason. Probably the best Mets offseason we've ever experienced, at least you and I, Mark, and our generation of Mets fans. So you guys enjoy our predictions for the Mets roster in 2030.
All right, let's have some fun. A little bit of a different video and episode. Today, we're going to be predicting the Mets 26-man roster 5 years from now. That's insane to say, 2030. We're going to be going through literally every single player that we think is on the Major League roster in the year 2030 for the New York Mets on opening day. Me and James both made our own list. We both made our own teams. Both gave some different reasoning. I can't wait to see what you have on yours because mine right now, truthfully and honestly, it feels insane. I looked at my lineups. I looked at my pitching. This is nonsense at this point.
My team's fantastic, but I definitely still had some thoughts about some money stuff, some about what David Stearns like stuff, like trying to be somewhat realistic, trying not to go over like $350-ish million in salary, but also while still having a ridiculous amount of fun in the process.
Yeah, I didn't really think about money. I went full vibes and guys that I want on the team, and I think the Mets should be interested in, will be interested in, have a good chance to get. So where do you want to start it off, James? Pitching or hitting? Where do you want to go first? We're gonna break it up. We're gonna do starting pitchers, relievers, and then like lineup. So where do you want to go first?
I think we should go lineup first. And just to like paint a picture for everybody, the only Mets currently right now on the team that will be under contract technically in the year 2030, not saying these guys are definitely going to be on our teams, but the guys who will be under contract for sure are Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, any of the prospects that haven't debuted yet, Luis Angel Acuna, and that's it.
Yeah. You're right. You're definitely right. At the catcher position, got two catchers on this roster. I'm still thinking Francisco Alvarez is going to be the catcher for the New York Mets in 2030, so I put him on there. And then my backup catcher, I went with Ronald Hernandez. I just had to find someone who I think is going to be able to be a backup catcher and free because I think the rest of this roster is going to be loaded with money.
I was going back and forth about Francisco Alvarez because this will be 1 year after he can become a free agent. We don't know what's going to happen with Alvarez. There's been way too many rumors about him with his contract, and never forget what's his name? What was the reporter?
Pedro Gomez? Not Pedro Gomez.
No, Hector Gomez.
Hector Gomez, yeah.
Pedro Gomez, rest in peace. But just about that. But I still feel like Francisco Alvarez is going to grow into someone who's more of like a face of this franchise in a way. Maybe not the best player in the team, but he's someone who just has such an emotional like stranglehold on these guys in this clubhouse that he's going to be a guy.
Yeah, so you have him as our catcher still.
I have Francisco Alvarez as the catcher, and then my backup catcher, I have a battle. We're going to go in the spring training of the year with a battle. I don't know who's going to win it yet, but it's going to be between Ronald Hernandez and Giovanni Rodriguez, two of our prospect catchers. Hernandez will be older. I think he'll probably be the backup catcher the year before, and he's a switch hitter, but not exactly sure how the defense translates, where Giovanni Rodriguez, the Mets' big international free agent signing from last year, 2024, he had like an okay time at DSL. He wasn't dominant, but I think he's going to be really good on defense. A lot of people rave about the arm and the pop time. So I think he has a 23-year-old then, or a 22-year-old then, could jump in and try to be the backup to what will be a 27-year-old Francisco Alvarez.
Which is really funny that you're saying it this way because I was thinking with those two guys as well. Like that's who I was between, and I was like, well, he'll be 22, give him a chance to work it out in AAA, and he could take over the backup spot from Ronald Hernandez if need be. All right, the big one here, first base. Who'd you go off first base, James?
I feel like we're probably in the same here. Both have Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. Yeah. I mean, if he hits the market next year, it seems like the Mets should be at least one of the three favorites to sign Vlad Jr.
And I think it's interesting that I know that there's been some rumors. Ben Nicholson-Smith has been reporting to Blue Jays and Vlad are trying to find common ground and extension, but there was another report that came out. I don't exactly know when this is coming out, but we're recording this definitely after all the Roki Sasaki stuff that happened. And
I know
there was a report that the Blue Jays sent a triumvirate of superstars in Bo Bichette, Dalton Varsho, and Chad Green to try and recruit Roki Sasaki. Really interesting. It wouldn't be Vlad Guerrero Jr., but I think it makes sense given the fact that they don't really seem to be close to a contract extension with him. And if he hits the open market, I think that the Mets, David Stearns, Steve Cohen, I think they're very, very, very concerned with bringing him to Queens.
Yeah, we talk about all the time that the Mets and David Stearns will be taking shots at guys that they feel are like the true generational needle movers, and Vlad Jr. is definitely in that category as well. At second base, I am going with Luis Angel Acuna.
Okay.
I'm putting him at second base. I'm not ready to move Francisco Lindor off a shortstop just yet. Lindor will be, I think, 35 or 36 at this point.
The oldest shortstop in the league.
But here's the thing, though. There are shortstops who can play deep into their career. And the thing that makes Francisco Lindor so great is that the glove, the hands are just unbelievable. So I think he's still going to be at shortstop at this point, too. We'll eventually get there. But I got Luis Angel Acuna at second base. He'll be a nice veteran getting ready to get paid in, I think, the next offseason.
Yeah, I have Francisco Lindor as my second baseman. This mostly because I made a big move at shortstop, so we'll figure that one out when we get there. But I just think Lindor, by the time he's 36, we know the arm has never been that good. It's never been a problem for him. But just as he gets older, the range has to get worse at some point. And I don't think Lindor has like any kind of ego. Like I think he'll be very willing and understanding. If there's a better shortstop on the roster, which I have one coming up next, I think he'll be really ready and really willing to be able to move off that position and be ready to be, as I've been saying forever, like the wily second baseman who hits like 29 home runs, steals 12 bags, and just turns incredibly silky double plays.
Okay. So you got him at second base. Third base, where'd you go?
Third base, I think the third base for this team is going to be a little bit platoony as we get forward in the future. Ooh. But the starting third baseman, I think, is going to be better on defense and be in the lineup every day. But my DH is going to be able to mix in at third base. Some guys on my bench are going to mix in at third base. It's going to be my guy, Jesus Baez. I just think he's going to make it.
Okay.
It's going to be a big year for him in the minor leagues this year. I think he's going to get up to the system. I think he's probably going to debut not in 2025, in 2026. And I think he'll just be like a solid third baseman playing over there. Good defense, good arm, good plate discipline, good power. Just become a solid player at the hot corner over there. I don't know if we're going to see an all-star, but I think we're going to see a guy.
Okay. I went with Elian Pena. I'm going to buy the hype. I'm going to be all over it. He's gotten the Rafael Devers comp. He's 17 right now, so in 5 years he'll be 22. Great spring training in 2030. He's going to force David Stearns and the Mets to play him at third base on opening day in 2030. So I went with Elian Pena, and also because the rest of this roster is going to have such insane amount of money on it, the Mets are just going to need some legitimately free guys. And Elian Pena, rookie year, lining up next to Francisco Lindor at shortstop. I don't know if there's a better way to let a guy get comfortable at the major league level than put one of the best gloves ever next to him.
I consider Pena as well, but I think that he'll probably need one more year in the minors because Baez will have had a few good years under his belt there, and the Mets do have a lot of infield prospects that I think will be a little ahead of Elian Pena. So if we did the 2032 roster, I probably would have had Elian Pena there, but because that'll be when Jesus Baez eventually becomes a free agent. That's when his team control will expire. But that's why I did Baez over Pena there. But shortstop, this is where I really started. This is where I started to have some fun. In 2030, one of my favorite players in baseball is going to be a free agent. And that's Elly De La Cruz, and we're going to bring him home. We're gonna outbid the Los Angeles Dodgers, and we're gonna bring home Elly De La Cruz in the winter of 2030, before the 2030 season. He's the most explosive player in baseball. By then, we're gonna see the hit tool level out a little bit. He's gonna be a ridiculously good defender. Still gonna have a cannon for an arm. Still gonna be 27 years old.
It's crazy.
So for the 13-year deal, we're eventually gonna sign him for. I think the first 4 or 5 years he'll be the shortstop, and they'll be able to figure out who's gonna be shortstop after him. But I have Elly De La Cruz as the Mets shortstop in 2030.
Nice, I like that.
We gotta beat the Dodgers. If you gotta keep him away from the Dodgers, you have to do it. It's gonna be one of the most critical free agents. It's gonna be us versus them.
It's so crazy to think about. Like just 3 or 4 years from now, we're gonna be talking about the Elly De La Cruz offseason and needing to make sure the Dodgers don't sign him. Oh my God, not looking forward to that. All right, moving on to the outfield now. In left field, I'm keeping it there. It's probably the last season of his career, maybe. Brandon Nimmo out in left field. He's not going anywhere.
I have the exact same. He'll still be under contract. That 8-year deal he signed, I think that this will be year 7 of it. So I just have him still being there. And I also love the way I feel like Brandon Nimmo's game's going to age, just because the plate discipline, the power. He's so smart in the outfield. I know the arm is a noodle, but it's a noodle now. It'll still be a noodle then. I just think he's going to be like a wily left fielder. Like this could be like what like Moises Alou was like for the 2006 Mets.
Or like Nick Markakis had been like for his entire career, just like an on-base guy at that point who plays like okay defense and will get on base kind of thing. So I like Nimmo still being a part of it. And again, he is under contract, so you kind of have to keep him there. In center field, I went diabolical. Did you go diabolical in center field?
No, I went diabolical shortstop.
All right, so wait, you go with your center field then first.
My center fielder, very safe. I think it's going to be Carson Bench. Prove himself as a first-round pick. Still be able to hang in the outfield then. I think then he'll be 27, 28 years old. This could be the last, or maybe it could be a year too late for him to move off center field. So maybe the Mets by this time have found another Jose Siri or another Harrison Bader type. I didn't put one of those in this roster because I think, again, they'll be comfortable bench for one more year there. But I have Bench as a very safe center fielder for this team.
Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, and we have the recommendation for you to check out right now. Don't wait. It's 1-800-Flowers.com. This year, we're partnering with 1-800-Flowers to make sure you're a Valentine's legend with an exclusive offer for the FT fam. It's double the roses for free. When you buy 1 dozen, they're going to double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. It's the perfect way to wow her without breaking the bank. 1-800-Flowers always delivers. Let them dominate this holiday. It's what they do best.
Think about everyone in your fam that deserves some love on Valentine's Day. I sent a bouquet to my daughter at college, and it lit up her day. I also added an awesome vase to the order for her, so she's got it all.
All roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, cared for every step of the way, and shipped fresh to ensure lasting beauty. Don't wait. Think ahead this year. Make it easy and get that deal right now. When you order 1 dozen, they'll double the rose bouquet for free. That's the FT deals that we're always looking out for. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/FT. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/FT.
I like that. That's a good spot. I considered putting Carson Bench, honestly, in center field until I saw some guys that are becoming free agents, specifically in the 2029 offseason, and that is the brother of Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna Jr., Mets center fielder, 2029 offseason. Everybody circle it. He's going to be playing right next to Juan Soto. He's going to be with his brother, and we know he's going to resent the Braves for how they treated him and how much they screwed him with that awful, awful long-term contract that he signed. There's no way he's going back to the Braves. Absolutely not. He just saw Juan Soto get that money. He's going to want to get his, and he knows the Mets. He's going to play with his brother. That's all he wants to do.
I'll say I thought about Ronald Acuna Jr., but the one thing that pushed me off is the fact that he'll be 30 by the time that contract's up. And I don't see Ronald Acuna Jr. coming off multiple ACL tears, still being able to hang in center field in his 30s.
Maybe,
like
but
that,
also, why not, though?
Like, that to me feels like Ken Griffey Jr. in Cincinnati. Like, just you got to put him in a corner for the vibe. So he'll still hit well, but I can't see him sticking in center field after these crazy injuries.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how he plays this year. I got all the faith in that knee in 2030. I think it's going to be just fine. Right field, I think we didn't move anybody. Juan Soto, we don't really have to talk about that. I don't have him moving to DH. I think the DH conversation is honestly getting way blown out of proportion with Juan Soto.
And also, it's the fact that like he can play DH. So he can DH sometimes. He's a DH every day. Like, he's fine. I mean, he's young. He's kid. He'll be 31 this time. It's fine. He'll be okay.
Jeez, 31. Oh my God. All right, who do you have at your DH spot? Because I went diabolical.
I went diabolical DH as well. I didn't go super diabolical. I went diabolical in a way. I think I feel like your guy. Did your guy's initials YA?
Yeah, mine's YA. Okay. Yeah, Yordan Alvarez. I just said, give me all the Latinos and put Brandon Nimmo in left field. That's it.
Okay, so actually, this entire lineup is Latino besides Brandon Nimmo and Carson Bench for me. But my DH is going to be the guy who I said was going to mix in a little bit at third base. He'll be older at this time, but he's going to want to spend his twilight years in the place that he really wanted to spend his prime. It's Carlos Correa.
Wow.
Carlos Correa at 34 years old, after his vesting option with the Twins does not vest, because he's going to need 575 plate appearances or a top 5 MVP finish or a Silver Slugger or an LCS MVP or a World Series MVP. None of those are going to happen. The option won't vest. We're pulling him in here on like a 2 for 40 deal. His legs are going to be pretty shot. He might be able to play third base once or twice a week, but the bat will still be working. The plantar fasciitis will be fully taken over both of those feet, but he's still going to mash. And he wants to play for Francisco Lindor at some point in his career. And I think they'll be able to line this up for the end of Lindor's contract with the Mets.
I considered Carlos Correa at one point, too. I thought about him. But, yeah, I went Yordan Alvarez. He's a free agent. We know the Astros aren't spending money. And, again, it almost feels like the Mets are going to have to be involved with some of these guys so the Dodgers don't get them. So I'm just hoping that we win a couple
of them. Yeah. Unless the Yankees wind up stepping up to the plate. And then for bench, did you do anything crazy on the bench, or did you do young guys?
I had young guys. I'll run through my bench. I had Jet Williams as a bench player. I actually think he might stick around just because he has the versatility of being able to play the infield and outfield. That's valuable. And I think on this team, especially with an aging Francisco Lindor, a younger player in like Elian Pena, Nimmo could use days off, maybe Ronald Acuna Jr. in center field. His knees aren't doing as well. Juan Soto and right. I think Jet Williams just has a way to play. Carson Bench is also on this team on the bench for me. Another guy where it's like maybe it's a passing of the torch eventually from Nimmo to him as like the everyday white guy in left field.
He'll be like 28 at this point. So how much torch is being passed? Carson Bench? 5 years. It's the first round pick last year out of college.
It is 5 years. Oh, I forget how long 5 years is. I didn't do the math there. Whatever. That one's a mistake. And then Edward Lantigua. That's the one I took a shot on. Freak athlete, huge dude, 18 years old in 2025. 23. I think he'll be getting ready to maybe make a shot at the starting lineup at some point.
Okay, so I went differently. I had Luis Angel Acuna on the bench. I think he's going to be that glue guy, that infield, outfield guy who's going to mix around a lot and play. And my take for Luis Angel Acuna has always been the staying pat. It's a zesty Whit Merrifield. And I think I think Whit Merrifield would have wound up on like a good baseball team. He wouldn't have gotten all the playing time he got in the middle of his career.
Yeah.
Where Luis Acuna probably like sneaks his way into 300, 400 plate appearances, steals some bags, hits some singles, has some big plays, and just has a lot of fun and like becomes the vibe glue guy. But everyone around baseball knows that like he'll get paid and probably be like, again, like a starter adjacent guy because he's so versatile, but never actually have one position they call his own. Second bench guy, it's going to be similar vibes to Luis Acuna, but I think more of a bat. One of my favorites in the Mets system, Boston Barrow. He's already being lauded for his versatility, being able to play 3 different infield positions. People love his makeup. He's a good athlete. He can hit the ball all fields. Like he's a lefty bat too, which would be someone who could mix in well. He's someone who I think winds up taking on like what Jeff McNeil is going to become in the next few years, where it's like here's a lefty bat that can play a couple different positions. He won't be able to play the outfield. That's why we have Luis Acuna for. But I think Boston Barrow will be a nice glue guy for the infield. And I did the crazy young Latin outfielder too. Mine's gonna be Simon Juan. I love Simon Juan.
Nice.
He hits the piss out of the ball. I don't think he'll ever be able to mix it up in center. So maybe that was one flaw of this roster, not having a true defensive center fielder. But maybe Acuna winds up finding a home there. But that's the bench, all the prospects.
Yeah, no, I think that's what the Mets are going to have to do, honestly, especially with the way that we're building this team. You got to spend some money and save it on the bench. Interesting note, neither of us have Mark Vientos. He is a free agent during this time, and I don't think he'll be coming back.
I don't think so either. I think we're getting a taste of it right now. Again, I don't know when this is coming out, but we're getting a taste of it. All the Pete Alonso stuff just happened when we're filming this. Doesn't seem like he's a guy that they wind up locking up long term, unless he doesn't
does
want very
something
much
crazy.
Money. Yeah, or unless he becomes like a freak of nature, Manny Ramirez.
Which maybe that's in the cards. He had an unbelievable year in 2024. Yeah. If he just continues on the trajectory of improving, I mean, he could do some crazy stuff.
But again, there's no disrespect from us. It just seems like he's not the kind of guy David Stern signed an extension for. 2030 will be the first year that he is a free agent.
Yes, and I just was like, I think there'll be other guys that they go after at this point. All right, so that's our lineup. On to the pitching side. This is where your home is. This is where you can have some fun. I'm gonna go with. I did 6 starting pitchers.
I did too.
I did because I think by 2030,
everyone.
Almost every team's gonna have a six-man rotation. I think
I agree
it just makes too much sense. You play 6 games a week. There's really no reason to not just have one guy pitch every single day. And also, that's going to be a way, and owners find a way to make pitching cheaper. Is going to be you actually throw less innings because now we have a 6-man rotation during a year. But what were you going to say? I feel like you had something.
No, I was going to say I think it makes sense. I still have. There'll be some reasons in this rotation. I think that works as well.
Yes, as well. So for me, I think Brandon Sproat and Christian Scott will be a part of that rotation in 2030. I think they'll still be there. I still think they'll be on their rookie contracts. They'll be relatively cheap. I like that. Christian Scott will be like in his Zach Wheeler kind of pre-free agency year where it's like, is this going to be the guy? Is he going to pop off this year? It'll be interesting to watch. Brandon Sproat will be there. I also have the Mets bringing back David Peterson, free agent in 2027. Okay. I really have high hopes from him in 2025, not from necessarily him taking like this huge step forward and becoming a pitcher like that's a frontline starter, but I think he might solidify himself as just like a very capable, steady major league pitcher. And I think in 2027, you're going to be looking at a guy that gives you like 180 innings a year with a high to mid 3s ERA. And you're like, how do we not want to bring this guy back on a respectable contract, a little bit cheaper? I also had the Mets going after another pretty big left-handed pitcher in 2027 by the name of Tarek Skubal.
I had him and I changed it. That's
funny.
I
think that the Tigers aren't going to be able to keep him. I think he's going to get a ton of money. And similarly to with going after, I mean, he's not the same level, but like going after a Juan Soto or going after Vlad Guerrero Jr., if you look at the young pitchers that are available during this time, you're not going to find one that's as exciting or as good as Tarek Skubal. So I think that's one of the darts that the Mets really go all in on. And then 2 of the back end guys here, Cutter Crawford is a free agent in 2029. I could see a guy like him being someone that the Mets go for, just give you some innings, something funky, bunch of different fastballs. We know that the Mets love that. And then Jose Budo, he will be in his final year of his contract. Throw him in as the 6th starter.
That's really funny because I actually looked at Skubal, but then he's from California, the Bay Area. So to me, he seems like a guy that might be someone who just takes a bag from the Giants. I have the Mets pulling off a major trade for a starting pitcher. Huge trade for a starting pitcher. I think we're going to wind up trading Jet. I think we're going to wind up possibly trading a Jonah Tong. And I think the guy they're going to go after is someone who's going to be 1 year or 2 years away from free agency. We're going to try and jump it to get there. And we're going to miss out on Skubal. We're probably going to, I don't know what's going to happen with Paul Skeens. I think the guy who's going to wind up being a Met is George Kirby.
Ooh, okay. So I had George Kirby, but I thought we were going to get him through free agency. And then both? I was like, what?
Yeah, both?
What do you mean?
You put both Skubal and Kirby in your rotation?
No. I had to take one out. And okay. I was like, I'm going to take Kirby out.
Yeah, so I just think we're gonna pull off a big trade for George Kirby within like 3-ish year, 4-ish years from now, like a year and a half, 4 years free agent, and maybe the trade deadline 2028. I think that's gonna be the moment we make that move. He's from Rye, like he's a New York dude. I think he said he grew up a Yankee fan, but I know he's also said that he went to the last game at Shea Stadium. Like he's been around New York lore for a long time. I think it's just an absolutely perfect fit. I also have Sproat and Christian Scott in the rotation. I think they'll both just be again on rookie deals, be great. I have also Kodai Senga as the guy who's going to re-up with the Mets.
I thought about him. I really did. I could see him twilighting back in Japan at that point.
I could just see. I don't think he'll be that old yet, so I think he'll still be wanting to be with the Mets. I think he's just become like kind of a folk hero with New York, and I think that he's going to have another few good years here. So after his deal's not up till 2027. Thank God he didn't get the innings to opt out next year. We're so happy about that. But I think he's going to give another little 3-year deal after 2027. 2030 will be his last year with the team. Then he highlights and goes back to Japan. But past that, I have the Mets adding 2 more veterans to the staff who will be older than. One will be much more consistent. One's going to be our fun reclamation project. The first one more consistent, poaching another Mariner. Luis Castillo is going to come home eventually. He's going to be a part of the Dominican Mets as we're going to be building them here. And I think he's going to be 37 years old. He'll be a great veteran. He'll still be pitching like a 3, 3.6, 3.7 ERA. He'll just be someone who's going to be a clubhouse guy, an experienced veteran, someone who's coming to the Mets to get his ring. And then the other guy, I'm going to have the Mets stealing someone from the crosstown Yankees. I think that we're going to be the Carlos Rodon reclamation site in 2029. That's going to be our guy. He's going to be chastised at the end of that Yankee deal. He's always going to be the guy who never lived up to the hype. He's going to be the guy they're going to talk about that held them back and like clogged up their payroll so they couldn't couldn't do the things they wanted to. And then he's going to come to the Mets in 2029 in his mid to late 30s and rediscover his career and have a couple nice seasons for us, 2030, 2031, 2032.
All right, I like that. I like where your head's at. So that's your entire starting rotation then.
That's my 6 man, yeah.
Okay, onto the bullpen. This is where it's going to get just
Crazy.
absolutely diabolical. So I'll name the guys that are a part of the organization right now that I think will be in the Mets bullpen. Mm-hmm. Dom Hamill, I think, will end up being a bullpen arm for the Mets. One of the last arms out there, but he's going to be free. He'll have options. Nolan McLean, I think, will be a high leverage reliever for the Mets by 2030. I don't know what the starter path really looks like for him right now. I think it's safer to say that he could be a reliever, and I think that makes sense. I have your boy Nate Dome in there as well. I have him as just being a reliever in this team. I think that might be a spot that makes a lot of sense for him. And of course, our boy, friend of the podcast, Ryan Lambert, will be the New York Mets closer in 2030. He throws 100.
That's really funny. I had Dome in there, and I took him out last second. Just figured he could be involved in the trade with Jonah Tong and Jet Williams to try and get George Kirby. But differently from you, from guys already in the organization that will be there. Again, I still have Ryan Lambert, of course. He's going to be the closer. He's a monster. 18 inches of vert and 100-mile-an-hour fastball. We're going to drink eggs with him when he gets called up in the next 2 years to the Mets. I have Nolan McLean also as a high-leverage reliever. I think that him, Tong, some of these guys are going to just wind up kind of being tweeners. Jonathan Santucci as well, Nate Dome as well. And some of them are going to find their home maybe in the back of the rotation. Some of them are going to find their home as parts of trades, and some of them will find their home in the bullpen. I don't know exactly how it's shaking out yet, but from that group of guys, I think it's going to be very fun to have a mix of dudes who are just good, have good stuff and good experience and can fill multiple roles. And then I had Dednell Nunez re-upping with the Mets when his contract's up in 4 years. I think he's going to be someone who becomes another folk hero. He's just a really good reliever. I think he gives us the hometown discount. And I think that we wind up just running out with Dednell Nunez like a nice 10-year deal so he can secure his wealth. And also, I have Jose Budo still being the bullpen, being one of the 2 long men I have in this bullpen when this happens.
Okay. Now, I do have 3 more spots in this bullpen, and these are going to be guys that are not on the team. So first, I'm going to shout out my boy Seth Halverson again. We're going to get him from the Rockies. Okay. He's a free agent in 2031. We're going to get Seth Halverson at some point. If David Stearns is listening, he knows. We're circling Seth Halverson 2030. Get ready for him. We're going to trade for the Rockies from him. Maybe the Monforts will be smart by that point and realize that they should trade people. But we'll see what happens there. I think the lefty in the pen, Angel Zerpa from the Kansas City Royals. Throws like 96, ton of ground balls. Good little pitcher, fun guy out there. Angel Zerpa will be the free little lefty that everybody in the Mets community gets frustrated that we signed. And then he ends up being a pretty good guy. And then, sneaky, in his twilight, coming back to the New York Mets at 40 years old for the bullpen, chasing a ring. Another one. He wants to bring it home. Jacob deGrom. He's going to throw one more year out there. He's going to give the Mets one more year. He's going to give him a shot. He's going to finish his job.
I can't believe you just said that. I considered him as well, but I think there's just no way he ever wants to literally just live in New York again, let alone play for the Mets. In very me fashion, I didn't have any lefties in this bullpen. We don't need them. We don't care. We have explosive fastballs. We have sinkers. We have cutters. We can do anything we want here. But for guys who are not in this organization now, 2 of them are just diabolical, like bizarre shit, and one of them is someone who I want to save. He's been one of my favorites forever. The setup man, this bullpen, possibly someone's going to mix in as a closer, Camilo Doval.
Ooh.
I think he's someone that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle right now in his career. He's lost his command 2 or 3 times. He's changed his pitch mix around. Sometimes the color and the sinker are just too dominant. He kind of can't really command them, can't corral them. I think he's going to be free agent in 2028. He might shake loose before then. He's someone I'd love to save and bring into the Mets pitching lab. But hopefully Jeremy Hefton's still here. Hopefully Eric Yeager's still here. We're still saying the same bullshit tropes then, but he's the guy I want to save and become a high leverage arm in this bullpen. Next 2 guys are just psychotic. These are from organizations that I think these players are specifically going to struggle with, and I would like to take them. One starter I want to transition to the bullpen, and one someone who's just I don't think anyone in this podcast has ever heard of this other person. But the guy who I want to take as a starter and put him in the bullpen, your favorite, Joey Estes.
Oh, jeez.
Joey Estes has an awesome cutter and an awesome slider and an okay changeup. I want to take Joey Estes, tell him you're only throwing that cutter and that slider, the changeup once in a while to the lefties. We're getting 3-4 more miles an hour in that pitch. You're gonna start really getting to the upper 90s. I want you sitting 95, 96, touching 97, and we're gonna turn you into a real life reliever. That's gonna happen. And again, he doesn't throw the cutter that much, but I think that's the pitch he's gonna wind up pushing. That's something that's gonna make him a very good reliever. I was trying to find the next Luke Weaver when I was playing this game with myself, because it's someone who just kind of pops out of nowhere. Because I still believe that even as far as we go here, David Stearns is not going to be ever giving big money to this bullpen. Especially we have De La Cruz, we have Guerrero Jr.,
Jordan.
We just paid George Kirby. There's not a lot of money to go around. We're gonna have to pay Sproat soon. We're gonna have to pay Scott soon. We have to be aware of this stuff. And the last reliever, this is fully diabolical. Zach Maxwell, AAA pitcher on the Cincinnati Reds. Maxwell throws 99 miles an hour, complete cheddar with a wicked slider, but he's walking about 6 guys per 9 inning, and with the Reds in AAA right now. And I don't think that the way he pitches, that high-riding fastball is going to play well with the Reds, Great American Ballpark. He's going to be a walk-on home run guy there. We're going to pick him up off the scrap heap. We're going to fix him. We're going to maybe give him a new pitch, and we're going to teach him. We're going to let him pitch and get his fly balls into the field. And he's going to be a demon middle reliever for this team at 99 miles an hour at 28 years old.
I respect it. I mean, listen, it wouldn't be a James video if he didn't just pull someone you'd never heard of with some cool things going on there. It's also funny, both of us know Edwin Diaz. I know he has the team / player option in 2028, be 35 years old, but it's funny that we're both in agreement that he won't be here past the contract that he currently has with the Mets. And it's really nothing against him.
No, not at all. We're going to have Ryan Lambert by then. He's one of the best closers in baseball, so we're all set there.
This is the David Stearns hive mind taking over. We just know you don't pay these old aging relievers because of what they did in the past.
No, this was a fun exercise. This was a really fun thing to sit down and do. Think about, look at whose contracts are expiring. Look at which players could shake out. Trying to find the places on the roster to spend the money and the place on the roster to pull back. The prospects that we both like, who we think are actually going to make it. This was a fun. I like doing this, and let us know if you guys liked it. Because again, this was fun to do. If you want us to do more weird shit like this, we'd like to as well.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section what you guys are thinking. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you are not yet subbed. We do appreciate it. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Arciano.
I'm Draftnik Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Let us know whose team is better in the comment section below. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Peace out. Let's go Mets.